Wow. We see some we did trivia yesterday and we
I
see
was just
some
about to
repeating
say,
names.
Oh, good,
just about to
good.
say the same thing. Hi, William. You're back.
Yeah, I guess people like us.
That's good.
Oh wow, 42 attendees. That was fast.
Yeah.
Philip is
So I'll do
popular.
all right. So I'm just gonna do a quick intro to CSNP while we wait, and then for people to come in, then we'll get right to it. Right, can everyone see my slides?
Looking good.
Move this. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Cybersecurity Nonprofit's first monthly webinar of 2024. So we're just kicking off 2024 with a bang, and we got some awesome, we hope, awesome webinars coming up for you this year. And we're just so thrilled to have Phillip Wylie here. He is the hacker maker, as they call him. So I'm Marta Wang, and we also have Ashley Sequeira on this webinar as well. We are both Associate Directors of Cybersecurity Education at CSNP. This is such a valuable webinar, super exciting. So I will just do a quick intro of CSNP and then let him take it away. So Cybersecurity Nonprofit is a nonprofit organization that empowers our community through inclusive and accessible cybersecurity education, awareness, and exploration. And I hope you're reading that as free, a lot of free, high quality training and resources. Our 4 pillars are inclusive education, cybersecurity awareness, diversity, equity, inclusion, and exploration. Cybersecurity Nonprofit has a ton of events. We have a monthly webinar, which is this. We also have workshops as well, hackathons, sometimes intro to CTF events. And we also have a bi-monthly trivia, which we did yesterday and we'll keep having throughout the year. So please stay tuned for those announcements. We also have some wonderful programming and contents. For example, our weekly blog that gets released on Monday. So you can learn about CSNP, cyber safety, how to keep your family safe, careers, how successful people got started in their cyber careers, and we'll explore different fields of cybersecurity. We also have everything from beginner to advanced topics as well. We also have career resources for breaking into cybersecurity, which explores different areas in cybersecurity and how to get into that. We also have a cyber safety program, which teaches you how to be safe online, which teaches cybersecurity awareness and how you can have like online privacy and general security awareness in your day-to-day life. And we also have boot camps as well. And we could not be us without our members and our volunteer. So here are the websites to either join as a member or a volunteer. And members get free access to all of our resources and a wonderful network. Volunteers, we actually have a lot of volunteer positions posted on our website as well, anywhere from beginner to experienced, and you don't need a technical background as either. We actually love creative and administrative and marketing skills. You can also submit a blog, give a presentation, or lead a workshop or hackathon, donate to CSNP, sponsor us, or partner with us. So sponsors and partners are here, and I'm going to take a minute so we can thank our sponsors and partners. Donations from the sponsors allow us to have high quality events like this. We also have sponsorship opportunities such as providing a venue, hosting an event, becoming an annual sponsor, as well as levels of partnership opportunities with different benefits. So we thank them. We also, if you like CSNP, you can always donate to us. Donations keep our content free, which is what we're all about. It also helps us do community outreach, help us educate people in underserved communities, small businesses, and nonprofits to keep themselves safe from cyber threats. And it also funds our programs to increasing diversity and especially representation of women and people of color in our industry. So thank you so much. Here is how you can contact us, learn about us. We also value your feedback as well. So thank you so much for joining us. And without further ado, give it away to Phillip. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. Let me share my slides here. Thanks everyone for joining.
Sorry, I also forgot to mention, because this is a frequently asked question. Yes, the slides will be recorded. The webinar will be recorded and posted to our YouTube in a few days. And you can use the chat. Ashley and I Phillip will answer the questions at the end, and Ashley and I will be in the chat for support. Sorry, I'll go away.
So thanks everyone for joining. Let me get my slides pulled up here. Let's see. Can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen okay?
Good to go.
Okay, good. So thanks for joining.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so a little bit about my background. I am Phillip Wylie. I have my CISSP, OSCP, and SANS web app pen testing certification. So I'm the director of security at Alias Cybersecurity. We're a consulting company. We provide incident response, pen testing, and different types of assessment and vCISO services. So I'm an offensive security professional instructor with over this month made 20 years in cybersecurity. So I'm a former adjunct instructor. I used to teach pen testing and web app pen testing at Dallas College, but I still continue to teach workshops for different organizations and at conferences. So I'm the founder of DEF CON 940 group in Denton, Texas. And also I used to run a group called the Pwn School Project, which was monthly meetups, similar type of concepts, educational type stuff. But I rebranded as a DEF CON group. And whenever I did that, it kind of helped the first month we were a DEF CON group, we doubled the attendance. And so this was kind of a way to bring more people in from the visibility and notoriety of DEF CON groups. So I am the concept creator and co-author of the Pentester BluePrint. The Pentester BluePrint came out of my lecture that I used to give each semester when I was teaching the pen testing course. And
Hey, Philip,
yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you put it on the presentation mode, please?
okay, yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
So, any rate, so I taught at Dallas College, and so this Pentester BluePrint was based off my lecture, which I turned into a conference talk. I was also in the Tribe of Hackers Red Team book. That's how I got offered to write the book for Wylie Publishing. I also host a couple podcasts, the Phillip Wylie Show, and I've previously hosted the Hacker Factory podcast, which ended in April last year. Phillip Wylie Show is the same format, although some of the things I do now is I bring on people to talk about content creation, because content creation is a good opportunity for folks that are wanting to get into cybersecurity or advance your career. And so this is my career path. When I graduated high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. I was a power lifter, and so my high school friends said, "Hey, you should be a pro wrestler." So I went to wrestling school and did that for a couple years. And then I got married and needed a more stable career, because as a pro wrestler, I was wrestling once a week if I was lucky. And down towards the end, I was only making like $25 a match. This was back in the late 80s. So I worked so many different jobs, but I'm the kind of person, I have to enjoy what I'm doing to really do well at those jobs. So I went to a trade school, learned AutoCAD, became a CAD drafter. Through that, I found out about sysadmin work, which was more interesting to me. So I took a Nobel NetWare network operating system certification course and taught myself how to build computers, and I got my first sysadmin job. So I did that for a little over 6 years, and during that 6-year sysadmin career, I found out about information security. So I got to move over to the security team. So if you're working in a company, you're wanting to move into another role, it's a good idea to look internally, because a lot of cases they'll take a chance on individuals internally and promote them where they may not do that with someone on the outside. And so so I ended up moving into the AppSec or the InfoSec team in 2004, January 2004. And the following year, we brought in a new CISO, and he had a more modern idea of way security teams should be structured. So he started an AppSec team, and I got put on the AppSec team. And that's where I learned about pen testing. And so when I got laid off from my job in 2012, I applied for a consulting role with Verizon and got it. So I landed my first pen testing position. And so the reason I like to share this is, if someone, I didn't have the computer science background, I wasn't some super nerd that knew computers and all this stuff. So I like to share this, because if I can become a pen tester, anyone else can, if you put in the time and the effort. So I like to share this slide. I originally shared this with my students because sometimes there's folks out there that if you know how to pen test, they may come up and want you to hack into someone's account for you. You see people come up all the time, say, "Hey, can you hack into my ex's social media account?" And you really want to be careful with that, because if you get any kind of legal issues, it makes it difficult to find jobs. So I like this quote that I first heard in Spider-Man, because Uncle Ben was telling Peter that with great power comes great responsibility. And that's the same thing with having these hacking skills. You want to be careful. So only hack if you have permission, even better, written permission. Hacking without permission is illegal. So we're going to cover the what, the why, and the how of becoming a pen tester. So what is pen testing? Pen testing is assessing security from an adversarial perspective using hacking tactics and techniques and procedures, TTPs, also known as ethical hacking. So security posture from an adversarial perspective gives you a better understanding of the security risk severity. Exploitable vulnerabilities are higher risk and higher priority for remediation, as well as justification for budgeting, because sometimes companies don't always have the money to remediate certain items. This could, to fix certain things, they may have to bring on more staff, buy expensive software or hardware. And so if you're able to justify it that, yeah, this can be hacked into, then it helps with that budget. So that's one of the ways of doing that. And as a pen tester, one time we had a large international law firm that we were pen testing, and the chief security officer actually was pointing us in the direction of some of these vulnerabilities that they've been trying to get repaired for years, but they wouldn't remediate. The company wouldn't spend the money. So by having this pen test done, he would show us some of these vulnerabilities to make sure he got in the report. Sometimes companies don't listen to their internal employees, especially when it's costing money. But sometimes if a consultant comes in and says this needs to be fixed, then they'll listen sometimes. So that's kind of what they did there. So as I mentioned, that if you're able to hack these vulnerabilities, then it's high risk and a better justification for remediation. So why pen testing? Regulatory compliance. So PCI for payment card data security standard requires pen test. Used to, it was like once a year. Now I believe it's up to twice a year. HIPAA is requiring pen tests for medical devices and healthcare providers, and service organization control 2, SOC 2 technical services. So companies that have software as a service, I mean, that's even like Elaine that's not on. Elaine, the company she works for, they're a SaaS-based software. So some companies require you to be SOC 2 compliant to do business. And so FINRA, Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, and it's a fun job with lots of opportunities. This back when I was getting into pen testing, you really didn't see that many opportunities, but with all these compliance and regulatory needs, more companies were having to do these pen tests. Typically before in the past, people would just bring in consulting companies, but some companies have so much pen testing to do, it's less expensive to have someone internally doing those. So it's a lot of fun. Even after all these years, if I hack into something and gain access to it, I still get excited about it. So different terms and jobs synonymous that you may need to take into consideration when you're looking for jobs. So penetration tester is the longer form of the word pen tester. Security consultants, analysts, and engineers are some of these titles that pen testers have, because HR organizations can't create unique job titles for all the roles sometimes, because you have so many different roles in cybersecurity. A lot of cases, you're a consultant, analyst, or an engineer. Some companies are starting to come around and have more titles more related to pen testing, which is changing. But when you're looking for these jobs, look for these synonymous terms. If you're looking for a pen testing role, look for terms like ethical hacker, offensive security, and adversarial security. And when you look at some of the tools that are used in these roles, and so departments pen testers work in are sometimes threat and vulnerability management or vulnerability management. Sometimes vulnerability management is the team that does the vulnerability scanning, doesn't actually do pen testing, but these are some of the names of the departments you'll see. So pen testing skills in other areas. So not only is this helpful for performing pen test, having these pen testing skills can help you as a SOC analyst, a network security analyst. Being able to understand this malicious traffic will make you better at investigating issues. And also digital forensic and incident response. So if you understand how these attacks work and stuff, then when you're investigating some of these incidents, it's going to make your life a lot easier. And then purple teams. So this is where the defensive and offensive teams get together to collaborate to improve defenses. So the offensive team, they'll execute some different types of attack tools or different methods, and they're testing to see if it's detected or prevented. So that way they can tune these devices to be able to better detect and prevent in the future. And then application security. So my background before I became a pen tester was I was an AppSec engineer. I was managing our third-party pen test as well as doing some vulnerability scanning. And this is really how I found out about pen testing. So these are some helpful skills, because sometimes if you're on an application security team, you may get the opportunity to do some web application pen tests. So different types of targets. So in general, this is just any kind of technology. Network, which is internal facing, external from the internet, wireless. So wireless, your Wi-Fi networks need to be tested, because with an attacker with a high-powered Wi-Fi antenna, they could be a mile down the road hacking your company. So this is something that really needs to be tested, because this is almost, in a sense, part of the external test. You're testing what someone can access externally. And then applications, web app, and API, or and mobile and cloud are some of the most common, but you'll still see some thick client, also referred to as binary applications. And so that is some of the cases there. And also cloud, just cloud in general, hardware, network, hardware, IoT, ICS, OT, and medical devices. And so for those trying to break into it, if you've got a cloud background, learning cloud pen testing is a very sought after skill, because a lot of people that have been in pen testing for a while may have not learned cloud and got into that area. So knowing some of these other technologies will help you with opportunities that otherwise might not have. So transportation, we have self-driving cars, and then a lot of these different transportation modes are connected somehow or another to networks or the internet. And these are ways that they can be attacked, that threat actors can hack into those. And then people. So people sometimes may be the only way in. The attackers may have tried a lot of different ways to hack in. So they send phishing emails to end users, hoping that they click on those emails or give them credentials or other things that they may call and social engineer out of the victim. And also buildings. So your buildings need to be secure, because you can have the most secure network. All your workstations can be super secure, but if someone's able to walk into a building and get access to these systems, and they're not logged into, they're able to do stuff. They can also steal systems. I've seen people that have been performing pen tests and physical security was part of it, and part of their tests, or they actually were able to get servers out of the building. So these are critical areas that need to be tested that sometimes people don't think about. And the different types of testing and testing depth. So this is a vulnerability scan. I've got these labeled as not a pen test because it's not actually a pen test, but these are important types of assessments. And these are pieces that can be part of the pen test. So a vulnerability scan, you run vulnerability scans in your pen test, but then also you'll have people that are doing reoccurring scans looking for vulnerabilities. And the next step of depth is vulnerability assessment. So this is still not a pen test, but you're doing vulnerability scanning plus vulnerability validation, using other tools to find vulnerabilities, because sometimes your vulnerabilities could be false positives. So you want to make sure they're not false positives. And so the next level is pen test. So this is basically a vulnerability assessment where you're doing your scans, vulnerability validation, and seeing if you can hack into those, even doing post-exploitation activities like see if you can gain access to data, see if you can exfiltrate data from the environment. Are you able to do a lateral movement, from that system, gain access to another system, that environment, or privilege escalation, where you're able to access systems at a higher level, like a admin, domain admin, or root. And so then you also have red team ops and adversary emulation. So this is testing the blue team. It's attack simulation, less restrictive in scope. But between the pen test, you're not worried about going undetected on a pen test, but a red team operation you are. So you're testing to see if your activities are being detected, are they being blocked, are they following the incident response plan? And with red teaming, you'll follow, they're typically, you've got more types of testing in scope, like social engineering, physical security, actually picking locks, getting into buildings, and that sort of thing. So there's specializations. This first one is not really a specialization. It's generalist. So you're doing some of all of it. You're doing network, Wi-Fi, some web application. So this is kind of a good place to start, where you can get in there and see what you like best. So also applications is another specialization. Cloud, social engineering, physical pen testing, and then your IoT and ICS OT environments. That's another specialization. Hardware, transportation, and red teaming. And so kind of a good way to pick a specialization is, say, like you're an application developer. If you've been developing applications, or even if you're in the application area where maybe you're a quality assurance engineer, you've been testing these applications, looking for bugs. Basically, web app pen testing is is very similar to that, although you're looking for security bugs. And so if you've got those kind of backgrounds, I've seen a lot of people move from being a QA analyst and moving into pen testing roles. It's not as difficult to learn. So any of these technologies, if you have a background with that technology, it's easier to learn how to secure and to hack into those different technologies. And so different testing knowledge. So when you're doing a pen test, you have so much information on that target And so you have black box, also referred to as a blind pen test, which is limited knowledge of that system. So you may only have IP addresses if it's a network pen test. It's more of an attacker approach. And so you have the opposite of the spectrum, which is white box, aka crystal box, also referred to as an assumed breach. This can be detailed system information, including accounts for app testing, documentation, and these accounts. You really need to be using authenticated pen tested on a application to thoroughly test it. But sometimes this is being used on networks too, because say you're coming in, you've tried the attacker approach, you can't get a foothold. If you stop there, there could be all sorts of underlying vulnerabilities, and you have to consider insider threats. Sometimes employees may sell their credentials, maybe the company's been breached, or someone who works for the company may have been involved in a breach. Someone is able to reuse their credentials to get that system. So we need to test as, to look for insider threats. And sometimes nation states will implant employees within companies to steal intellectual property. And then the gray box is partial knowledge. So this is more information enough to test it. So IP addresses, domain names, just enough information to test it. And so ways to look at this, I like to compare it to like tinted glass on the windows of a vehicle. So if you have like you've seen like the really dark tint like limos and stuff where you can't see people in there, just think of that, the environment's inside that dark tinted glass, you can't see it. But if you look at the crystal box, this is clear glass. You can see the inner workings of what's in there. So you're able to test, what's in there. You have a better idea what's going on. Then you look at the gray box. This is kind of a lighter tinted glass. You still can't see anything in that box, but you're able to see more than you can on the black box pen test. And so that's a good way to describe that. So when you're doing the black box pen test, there's a lot more reconnaissance you've got to do, a lot more OSINT, digging to get that information to build that clearer picture of what you've got going on. Another way to describe these methods, if you've ever seen the clear locks, they've got some locks that are this clear type of acrylic plastic that you can see the tumblers, the pins for the lock. And so you're able to, it makes it easier to pick that lock. So that's a way to look at when you're performing these pen tests. So the more you know about that target, the easier it's going to be to hack into it. And so becoming a pen tester, so technology skills. So you need the technical foundation. So if you've worked in IT or development, software development, then you've already picked up some of these skills. But if you haven't, if you're starting out as totally new, maybe you haven't been taking any college classes or any courses at all, you need to know the technology basics like networking, operating systems at a sysadmin level. And these include Windows and Linux. Mac would be helpful too, but you run into a lot of Linux and Windows. Linux has been used a lot for systems on the internet, and then Windows typically in your enterprise environments. And then understanding security, applications, and hardware. So these first three items are really what you need to focus on. You can get into more advanced stuff down the road, but you've got to understand the technology before you can secure it and before you can hack into it. So how to gain these skills, pen testing classes, you can take workshops at conferences, attending some of the different talks at these conferences, learning how some of these pen testers are performing these hacks. And then cybersecurity organizations like the cybersecurity nonprofit, like this meeting you're joining tonight. And then there's other groups out there too. And so one of the things I would say too, when you're networking, the different meetup groups and stuff you go to, try different groups, because one of the things that I get caught up in is, since I like the hacker side of things, is the conferences I like to go to are DEF CON. I like to go to different hacker types meetups like 2600, the different hacker associations. Dallas has Dallas Hackers Association, which was inspired by Austin Hackers Associations, in California, Pacific Coast Hackers. So these different groups, and those are the ones that I gravitate towards and really enjoy, but I've kind of learned I've got to spend more time in some of these ISSA and ISACA meetups and some of these CISO meetups, because this is a way for me to network with different management types, which is good for my career. It's good for me helping my company get business. And then so self-study, so home labs, online training like Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, videos and tutorials. You can find a lot of good content on YouTube, blogs and articles and Twitter. So a lot of these security organizations, different security researchers have some really good articles and stuff on blogs, and even like Medium or Social Stack. And then Twitter, which has actually now been rebranded as X, is another one. That's been one of my go-to resources because a lot of researchers will share their research there before they present it at a conference, or maybe it's just easier to find it there. So that's a really good resource as well. So the hacker mindset, this is something you have to develop. And so the hacker mindset is developed through practice. So you're going through Try Hack Me or the Hack the Box. You learn these different hacks. And after a while, you learn how to chain those together. So maybe you did like a password brute force, which gives you access to that system. Maybe you're running as a service account or some lower level user that doesn't have access to anything. Now you have to elevate your privileges. So you're going to look for a local or remote code execution vulnerability so you can gain access to that system. And so as you learn these different type of attacks, you kind of build up that library and you're able to do some of these things without having to research everything. So as a pen tester and using these hacking skills, you'll have to research these different vulnerabilities and find exploits for it. So just the repetition and time is the best way to develop this. So CTFs, Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, this is a really good way to practice that. And so the Pentester BluePrint formula is the technology knowledge plus security knowledge plus the hacker knowledge and mindset. So you have to know the technology before you can secure it, and then you need that knowledge before you can actually hack into it. So pen testing education. So developing your own personal Pentester blueprint. So you need to do a skills inventory. Think of the different skills I was sharing that's required: networking, operating systems, security. So you look at the skills you have, perform a gap analysis, and then zero in those things that you're missing. So if you've got an IT background or you have a security background, you understand security, operating systems, and networking, then it's, you need to jump into actually learning how to hack. And so different educational resources, so SANS Institute, Offensive Security, Anti-Siphon, Pentester Academy, INE, Zero Point Security for more renting stuff, Pentester Lab, TCM Security Academy is another good one, and Hack the Box Academy and Try Hack Me. These are good resources for learning. It's not an exhaustive, all-encompassing resource, but this is some of the more common ones that are really great resources. So free learning resources, BugCrowd, HackerOne, and Integrity is a bug bounty company out of Europe. Their way of making money and getting customers is they're doing crowdsourced pen testing. So they bring people in as a bug bounty hunter. You get paid if you find bugs. So the more people they educate, the more people on their platforms, the more successful they are. So BugCrowd offers BugCrowd University. HackerOne has Hacker 101. And then if you go out to Integrity, they have some learning content as well. And a lot of these companies will have YouTube channels. So Hacking Tutorials is another blog that shows you some different hacking techniques. And then Web Security Academy by Portswagger. This is some of the best web application security training you can take. You can learn how to do web app pen testing, and it's totally free. It is from a very basic entry level all the way up to very advanced. So this is one of those type of resources that you won't outgrow too fast. But just going through that, learning how to use Burp Suite, which is an industry standard tool, will help you out. And kind of the bug bounty thing is being a resource to gain experience. You're getting to do real world pen tests in a production environment. And so once you do these things, you can go through job interviews and you're able to explain how you found certain vulnerabilities, how you do pen testing and all that. You're able to do better in these interviews. And so Try Hack Me is another great learning resource. So different certifications. So you see some of the entry level ones, the CEH, Pentest Plus, and now the TCM Academy has their EJ PPT, their junior pen tester cert. Then you have some of the intermediate ones from TCM Academy, the different SANS certifications, offensive security. And then you have these advanced certifications. So really where you're at now, you're wanting to, focus on entry level to intermediate certifications and stuff like the PNPT. I hear people having good experience with that. The EJPT from 9E was a good one. And then the junior pen testing cert through TCM. And then you also have your web app certifications and the cloud pen testing certifications. And then for red team, the CRTO, the 0-point security certification for red teaming, and then SANS, I think the SEC 565. If they haven't added the cert yet, I'm not sure if they've added that or not, but that's one that I'm sure they're going to add a certification for, because most of their courses have a certification associated with it. And so determining which certification you get. So research the job listings and look at the certifications that you're seeing more often. Those are some of the ones to go after. CH and Pentest Plus are DoD Directive 8570 certifications and can be helpful in government jobs, whether you're working directly for the government, contracting, or consulting with the government. They like to have these certifications. CISSP is one that falls into that, and some of the other CompTIA certs are part of that. So these are important if you're going to do business with the government or work for the government. So some certification tips: learn the skills, not just prepare for the exam. So your probability for success will be even better if you understand the content. Because one of the things, even a practical exam like the OSCP, which requires you to hack into systems, document that to pass the test, if you only prepare for that exam and not learn the content, once you're out trying to find a job, then it's going to make it more difficult to go through the job interview. So if you understand it better, you're going to perform better in interviews, and then you're going to have a better skill set. So once you finally break into pen testing. And so like a lab environment for a home lab. So this can be as complex if you want it. You can go out to eBay and different places and buy used hardware, have servers, routers, and switches, and set all that up. Or you can have like virtualized systems. So you can have one computer running your attack system plus all the targets on one system, or you can have just a system with your vulnerable VMs on there and use your laptop or other computer to go across the network to attack that. So some vulnerable VMs that are good for your labs are Metasploitable 2 and 3. Metasploitable 3 actually has the ability to install on Windows, so you need to be able to hack Windows and Linux both. Metasploitable 2 is only on Linux. And so VulnHub is a place to download these vulnerable VMs. Some of these are retired CTFs from conferences. So these are targets you can put in your home environment. So for your hacking system, this could be virtual or physical hardware, and you need a hacking OS like Kali Linux or Parrot OS. And then Windows, you can install Commando VM or Flare VM, which are different scripts by Mandiant to set up your systems for pen testing. But one of the things back years ago, I always told people to build home labs. This is still a good option, but there's so much stuff online now, so much cloud-based labs that you can use those that sometimes you don't have to worry about spending all the time to build these labs. There's still value in that, but if you just to the point where you really need to get the hacking experience, using things like TryHackMe, Hack the Box, or Offensive Security's Proving Ground labs are good places to do that. And Anti-Siphon, they have a cyber range, which has this online environment. Over the Wire CTF is a good resource for hacking Linux, and Under the Wire is a good one for hacking Windows and PowerShell. So different books here. So Penetration Testing: A Hands-On Introduction to Hacking by Georgia Weigman. This is a book when I first started teaching my class at Dallas College was our textbook until the Pentest Plus came about, and I wanted to find a manual that my students could study for a certification. So that's why we switched. Then the Hackers Playbook 2 and 3, Web Application Hackers Handbook for web app pen testing, and then the Operator Handbook and Red Team Field Manual. So these last two are just really good resources on how to run commands on certain types of tools. And so it's really a quick reference, and you're able to use different hacking tools as well as The operator handbook gets into stuff around not only pen testing, but some blue team stuff in OSINT. And so how to get the pen testing experience. This is kind of the more difficult part you get. So the pen testing tools, you need to learn vulnerability scanners, even though some exams like the OSCP won't allow you to use vulnerability scanners, but in real world, you're using vulnerability scanners because it makes your job easier. A lot of times you've got thousands of systems, hundreds or thousands of systems you're trying to test, and trying to test it all manually can take a long time. So your network scanners, Nessus, Nexpose, OpenVOS, and Nuclei, and then for web apps, WebInspect, which is actually Fortified DAS now, AppScan, Acunetics, NetSparker, Nikto, and Nuclei. And then pen testing operating systems, Kali Linux, Parrot OS, as we mentioned earlier, and then pen testing tools like Nmap and Metasploit, and then web application pen testing tools like Burp Suite, Zap, web application scanners, and fuzzers. And so the skills you need, networking, operating systems, so you need to get experience with these, and so you get experience with these through home labs. In this slide, we're kind of mentioning reverse engineering. So reverse engineering is a good skill to have. If you find like a Java jar file or a Android APK file on a file share, sometimes they have hard-coded credentials in those files, and sometimes you're able to find information where things are stored, and so you're able to use that on your pen test. So reverse engineering is a good skill to gain. And so hands-on experience through CTFs, Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, and home labs. So this is actually giving you the actual pen testing or hacking experience that you're going to need. And as you're getting this experience, even though you haven't done a pen test, you can still be able to explain to an interviewer how you run certain tools, do certain attacks. And so getting real world professional experience, bug bounties, as mentioned before, this is crowdsourced pen testing. So BugCrowd, HackerOne, Synac, and Integrity. And then also pen test as a service. This is a really good opportunity. Like Cobalt, their website is cobalt.io, but last I heard, they were paying $1,500 per pen test. It required no more than like 35 hours. And this is not a lot of money for a pen tester, but as you gain that experience, you do that for a year, then you go apply for a full-time pen testing role somewhere, and you can make a lot more money than that. And also doing pro bono or low-cost pen testing for nonprofits, small businesses, religious organizations. This is a good way to get experience. And if you charge a little bit of money, say you might know some people that own some businesses that can't afford some of these pen testing companies to do work for them, you could do it at a lower cost. And as you get more experience, you can take on more customers. You could end up starting your own consulting company. And then CVEs, common vulnerabilities and exposures. CVEs, you hear about CVE numbers, and we're going to get into that a little bit more, how that's a good option. So CVEs, the common vulnerabilities and exposures system, provides a reference for methodology of publicly known vulnerabilities. So this is anytime a vulnerability is found and reported, it gets a CVE number. And so I got the idea of leveraging this because I'm an experienced pen tester of almost 12 years, and I haven't found a CVE. In my opinion, a CVE is more valuable than certifications, because if you're finding CVEs, you're basically finding 0 days. And if you're doing that, you're finding things that vulnerability scanners can't find. So some really good resources here. Joe Helly, also known as the mayor that works for TCM Security, he wrote a blog post and several blog posts now. And actually, I saw his talk while I was Hacking Fest the year before last. And the title was, I was born one night and found 2 CVEs. So basically what he did is he found like free and open source hotel reservation software, installed it in his home environment, performed a pen test, found bugs on it, reported, and got these CVE numbers. And the nice thing about CVEs, you can put those in your resume or your LinkedIn profile. So on your LinkedIn profile, under publications, you can actually put links to these CVEs. So the nice thing about having a CVE, you can tell someone, you can put the description on the publications, but then it can actually go to the vendor's website, see that you actually have credit for it. You're the one that actually did that. You're able to prove that you were the one who found those CVEs. So that's a good way to get experience. And this is one way to kind of build up that experience that you're able to show someone, without maybe not having the extensive pen testing experience or actually having pen testing experience outside of, labs and bug bounty. But also Bobby Cook had a guide. I think this was some of the inspiration for Joe Helly, and it's a beginner guide to 0-day and CVE AppSec research. So these are some good guides to get started. And Joe Helly has some other Medium articles out there on other CVEs he's found. So putting this on your resume, like I said, not all pen testers have CVEs. And if you have those, that kind of puts you a step above the competition. So demonstrating and documenting skills. So you can do this through writing. So doing write-ups on CTFs, Hack the Box, Try Hack Me. This is a good way to show that you're able to document your work, how you did these things, and show that you have the ability to write pen test reports. Also writing articles and blogs on GitHub, Medium, and other blog platforms. This is a good way to document some of those skills that you're gaining. Some people really don't like the video thing, so writing is a good way to document that. And the CVIDs that was mentioned earlier, tool technique demos and hacking walkthroughs on YouTube. This is kind of how a lot of content creators get started. And these are basically, if your resume is next to someone else that has everything identical, say you've got the same certifications, taking the same courses, and same education background, when they see that you've got videos of walkthroughs you've got CVEs, you've done write-ups, you've created scripts, and you have those on GitHub, this is going to show that you're going above and beyond, and they got a better idea of your skill set. It's like you're really creating like a portfolio. And used to, it was mainly the creative types, like your artists, graphics designers that had portfolios. But now security professionals, if you have basically this online portfolio, it's going to help you go a lot further and help out with your job search. So content creation, streaming, we mentioned the videos before. There's also Vimeo, which is another platform. Instagram and TikTok, these short form videos are becoming more and more popular. And then like Facebook Reels, and also writing, public speaking conferences. So doing webinars like this, presenting for webinars, conferences, different security meetup groups. A recent college grad was at a DEF CON group meeting in Dallas. They did a talk on malware, and a hiring manager from Citibank was in the audience. And so he asked for the resume, and they ended up getting the job because basically they were doing a technical interview, unassumed, not realizing that someone is in the audience that can hire them, seeing them do that. So also social media, sharing, building your brand on social media. That way people can find you. So one of the things that helped me, I needed to change jobs a while back. Place where I was at wasn't working out. So I gave my notice. And then the last 2 weeks, I started reaching out to people I knew. My last week there, about 2 or 3 days before my last day, I shared on LinkedIn and Twitter that I was looking for a job. I started getting all these people responding back to me. This is in October. So this is, we've got a really tough job market. So my last day was on a Thursday, and I had 2 job offers by Friday, the next day. And this is because all the conference speaking I do, my social media presence, I've built a pretty big following. So this was helpful. I get hired by companies because I speak at a lot of conferences, and, people are looking for folks that can do public speaking and demos and stuff. So this was a big help. So building a personal brand is very important. And along the lines of that, you've got to really work on your virtual and in-person networking. So you just can't rely on just the online stuff, which online is good. And you definitely want to exercise that and use it. So you've got different online communities like Discord, Slack, Reddit, LinkedIn, and Twitter, which now X. These are good places to connect with people. So what I do when I'm going to a conference, I'll let people know on LinkedIn and Twitter, I'm going to be at this conference. Say hi if you're there. And so that way I'm able to meet up with friends, meet people I'm connected with I haven't met before. And so then now I'm getting opportunities because of this. I get hired because of my social media presence. I worked at a company and I got them more LinkedIn followers, more Twitter followers, more visits to their website, more visits to their booths, brought more brand awareness to their company. And so also the in-person stuff. So this is the way to take this to the next level. You build up this network online and then you enhance that network by meeting people in person. And you just can't really make those connections always online. So you meet people in person. One of the things too, I was at a CISO meetup a few weeks ago, and one of the founders of that CISO conference and CISO group, I was talking to them and they were they asked me how I was liking my job. What do you do there? Pen testing? Yeah, I do pen testing. Well, we need some pen testing. So put them in touch with our company. They're talking about having us do some pen testing for them. And at the same time, they also invited me to speak at their upcoming CISO conference. So if I attended that group and I hadn't talked to him that meeting, I wouldn't have gotten these opportunities. So that's one of the things when you're out there. I had a mentoring call with a person that does a lot of speaking. They want to get more into the evangelist part of things. And one of the things I told them where they were kind of missing out on opportunities, they're going to these conferences and speaking frequently. But the thing that was happening is they weren't really working on the networking. They would give their talk, maybe go back to the room, maybe watch a few talks, but not really optimizing the opportunity to network with folks. And just in-person connections are just so much stronger. People remember you more than if they know you in person. Someone's talked to you for 10 minutes. It's going to be a lot more easier to remember you than maybe a direct message on LinkedIn. So job hunting tips: prepare for the interviews. Even though you may not be applying for a web app pen testing role, you always get asked questions from the OWASP top 10. So be able to explain the different vulnerabilities and how those can be prevented and remediated. Be able to explain basics like three-way TCP handshake and OSI model. What you're going to run into is you're going to run into directors or upper management that's going to interview you, and they've been out of things for a while, or maybe they didn't work in pen testing. And some of the basics, these are some of the questions they're going to ask. So Banjo Crashland, Jason Blanchard from Black Hills Information Security Group, he's got a whole series, and he started back up on job hunting like a hacker, and basically shows you how to use reconnaissance to find out information, how to, tweak your resume to get jobs, your LinkedIn profile. So highly successful. I've talked to some people that have used this, and it's been very helpful. Jason Haddix has a video that he did called How to Create a Better InfoSec Resume. He was on NahamSec's stream one time, and he was sharing some details on how he was using Google Docs, taking Google Slides and creating some of those fancy resume templates you normally have to pay for these applications to create, or people to build these for you, and able to do that for free. So that was a really good option there. So yeah, prepare for the interview. So this is really helpful. Anytime I prepare for an interview, I do a lot better job, even though I've been doing this for a while. You still have to refresh your memory on some things. So just practicing. And so the thing is, when you're out there interviewing, if you don't get the job, just remember, the more times you interview, the more experience you're getting. And so that opens us up to the question portion.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Phil. That was so informative.
I was taking notes.
Oh, me too.
The biggest takeaways is the branding stuff now, no matter where you work in cybersecurity. I mean, I know, Ashley, you've witnessed this because of, you're out there in the community doing stuff, that you probably have better job opportunities than you did whenever, you weren't exercising that.
Oh, night and day. When I, it's nice when you put into the community and you kind of need that lift back up. And so even with my search right now, everyone's been really supportive, and the networking alone has helped immensely.
Yeah, it's amazing how well that helps. So if you want me to, I can just read these off and answer those if that works better.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So let's see. The first one, Lorraine said, coming here from the way of the Caribbean, it has been difficult to find remote work without being in the US. Any advice for persons working in Caribbean or other regions to work remote? I've been working in the industry for about 2 years locally. Bug bounties are a good one, because a lot of these bug bounties, and sometimes Pentest as a service like Synac Red Team and Cobalt. Sometimes they'll hire people that are offshore that aren't in the U.S. That's becoming more of an option. I mean, because I hear of some companies that did a lot of layoffs last year that now they've got a lot of their pen testers like in the Philippines and stuff. So they're opening up to more offshore areas. There are some areas of security that they require you to be on in the US, but there are other opportunities too. So like I would start out with bug bounty and that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's kind of a good start there. And then not only US, some other countries that may, maybe European countries that may offer work to people outside of their country. So Thomas said, I've been searching for an entry-level cybersecurity job for a month and have not seen any entry-level opportunities. I'm surprised because everybody says there's a look. So yeah, there's this thing that they say the skill shortage though, but one of the things you have to look for is what, some of these entry level can be a little more. Yeah, it's kind of because one of the things that some people argument have is there's no entry level. I believe there are entry level cybersecurity roles like SOC analyst, also like IAM, which is identity access manager, where you're setting up accounts. Those are kind of entry level roles. But one of the best things you can do with jobs is to make sure you're networking. So being parts of groups like this, as many groups you can be a part of. So if you can be part of like women's groups, some different diverse groups, join those and network. You just really have to network, because a prime example of how networking helps. When I went to work for US Bank, I was tired of doing consulting work. And so at this point, I'd been pen testing for 5 years, had been in security for quite a while, had all the certifications. So I met someone at an OWASP chapter meeting. They had openings at US Bank. I gave them my resume. Within a week, I had an interview. 2 weeks later, I had a job offer. At the same time, I applied for an open role at US Bank. I mean, at Bank of America, same type of job. And I didn't hear from them until a year later. Some of these algorithms on these job sites are very difficult to get around. So if you go to different meetups or someone online, ask them to refer you, because a lot of cases, these companies pay referral bonuses because it's cheaper to pay a referral bonus than go through a recruiter. Recruiters are charging like upwards of tens of thousands of dollars to place people. A company may have anywhere from a $500 to $3,000 referral bonus. And if they refer you, they make the money. So, make sure you take advantage of the networking. And if you have to, I'm not discouraging for going into security, but if you can find a help desk role, any kind of technical role, if you're not working in IT, it's easier to move into security from technical roles, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of similarities between the two. So get that experience, and then once you get in somewhere, sometimes it's easier to move into roles within those companies. So sometimes you have to be creative and just apply a lot. Some cases it takes people applying a lot for these jobs. One of the things to realize now, the market's a little tougher now, so keep that in mind. But the video series from Jason Blanchard, I would highly recommend looking at those. And so that's kind of helpful. So Victoria asks, how does the OSCE differ from the OSCP? So with the OSCE, used to it required one exam, 148-hour exam. And the OSCE was more of an advanced pen testing certification. OSCP is, their network pen testing cert, but the OSCE would require you to do, it was like some exploit development. So you had to be able to go through, fuzz different kinds of applications, figure out how to create vulnerabilities. Create exploits for those vulnerabilities. And so with the OSCE now, it's like 3 different exams. So you have to take 3 different exams. Actually, for those of you that know who John Hammond is, he was one of the first ones to get the new OSCE. So there's like an exploit development, an advanced pen testing. So there's like 3 different certification courses and exams you have to take and pass to get that. So it's one heck of a cert to get, but something like the OSCP is really good to start out with. And you can kind of work on those. Some of those take getting a little more experience to be able to take those certs. exams. Okay, so anonymous attendee always cracks me up when I see anonymous because I think of the hacker group. So we got someone from Anonymous joining us tonight. So it says, hi, what is the machine configuration like for pen testing? What operating systems you like to run Kali as well as virtual machines, or do you harden operating systems? There's kind of pros and cons to both. So I used to be a firm believer in running virtual machines on my main operating system. But one of the things you run into sometimes is resource issues, and the performance is not always that great. So I've really kind of changed my thinking to installing the operating system bare metal, meaning if you've got a laptop, you're installing Kali or Parrot on that laptop and not running in a VM. So that's kind of the way I would kind of advice I'd give now. And Parrot OS is another good option for your operating systems. I would try out Parrot OS and see how you like it, because some things I've experienced work better on Parrot. And also for like, you can use Mac OS for pen testing. You can install some of those tools on a Mac, so it doesn't have to be Kali Linux. You can also install some of those tools on Windows too, but you're just kind of a little more limited in the Windows world. And so we have another one here. Is physical penetration testing in demand? How do you get into that? What would you recommend? So yeah, there's roles out there, but it's a little more specialized, and there's less opportunity in that area. But I would say if you learn social engineering, so if you're doing social engineering and physical pen testing, it's a good way to get into one of those roles. There's jobs out there, and in a lot of cases, if you find companies that specialize in pen testing, that's a way to get it. So if you wanted to go to work as a physical pen tester, usually they don't have those type of roles. So it usually have to be with a consulting company. But like I said, and this is something, if you learn red teaming, this can be leveraged with red teaming and also social engineering. So Justin says, I have the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, Security Plus certs, and I'm studying for Linux Plus, then Server Plus, then Pentest Plus are in my plans as well. These have helped tremendously relatively understanding the concepts and some of the basics. What are your thoughts on utilizing programs like Gradle, Maven, or Jenkins to automate pen testing, or generating pen test reports? So yeah, that's a good path. You're building some good, strong foundations. One of the things to tell people too, I like to tell people, and some folks out there, you get people that come in two categories. You have some people that are gatekeepers, and then you got some people that this is the way I did it, and this is the way I think it has to be done, and it's not. So I had a student one semester say, do I have to, be a sysadmin, or do I have to pen test as long as you to be as good as you are? But it's different for everyone. If you put in a lot of effort and a lot of time, you can get there faster. So you don't have to be a sysadmin. Some people think you should have to be a sysadmin before you're a pen tester, but you don't have to. You just need to gain those skills. So Gradle and Maven, I haven't heard of, but yeah, using things to automate pen testing is a good idea. Or use it to generate your pen test reports. Automation is one of the first types of automation was Metasploit and vulnerability scanners, because we need ways to scale things. So if you can figure out how to automate these things, it's really good. And some people start out by creating scripts. So you see tools like Auto Recon that Tiberius created, and some of these different hacking scripts. So writing stuff like that, using some of these different platforms, even automating, creating your virtual machines if you have a virtual environment, using those type of activities. So I think you're really on the right track. Those are great ideas, because sometimes your environments, it's good to have the skills to be able to build pen testing infrastructure, so you're able to automate stuff, even automate setting up systems. That's a great resource, and good idea on all the CompTIA background, because you're going to have a really firm grasp on all those technologies, so it's going to make that a lot easier for you. And so someone asked, like, if you're using, okay, this must have been a continuation. So yeah, people are using stuff like, okay. But people are using that for pen testing. It makes some things easier. It's just kind of like the Wi-Fi pineapple. People use Wi-Fi pineapples. It's easier to run some of these attacks than than trying to do it manually. So that didn't see the complete question. There must have been like a follow-up to something else. So what resources would you recommend relative to helping me build my social media presence and professional branding? So I'd say look at what some of the other people that have a pretty big following. One way to build your following that's pretty interesting is one of my friends, Gabrielle B from Canada. She shares resources on pen testing. She's a pen tester, and she shares, multiple times a week resources on web app pen testing, network pen testing, cloud pen testing. And she's built up to like around 90,000 followers now. And she's basically sharing, these resources. So sharing any kind of content as you're learning on your journey, if you find tools and stuff, you got to find useful learning resources, share those on social media. But yeah, you just kind of have to, and for me, just to kind of show how mine are really built a lot from speaking at conferences. So in 2018, right before I really started doing a lot of speaking, I had 2,000 LinkedIn followers and 2,500 Twitter followers. And now I'm up to almost 50,000 followers on Twitter, and I'm almost to 49,000 on LinkedIn. And basically I'm sharing the stuff I'm doing. I'm speaking at conferences and that type of thing. That's basically what I'm doing. But there's some other resources out there, some people that are sharing stuff on. And there's another guy, David Meese, that he basically does these things to get people to follow each other and connect. And those are some of those opportunities to try to connect. But it's really just kind of finding out what method works better for you, sharing information and so forth. So someone said, what's your opinion on Kubernetes scanner called New Vector? I really don't that's the first I've heard of that. I haven't had any much experience with that. Something I need to learn more about the containerization type of testing, but I really don't have experience in that area. We have another question. I currently hold the Google Cybersecurity certificate and 60% complete with Hack the Box certified penetration testing specialist. I plan to pursue the OSCP certification next. I think that's a good path. I think after you get through the Hack the Box certified penetration tester, then you'll be set up to start the OSCP. Do you think these certifications would be sufficient for landing a junior pen testing job, or should I consider additional certifications like Security Plus, Pen Test? No, if you get like the Hack the Box certification, I value that over Pen Test Plus. And then once you get OSCP, the knowledge you could gain from like Security Plus, if you really don't have much experience in that area, maybe even just going through some of the Professor Messer videos or learning the concepts. If you've got access to Hack the Box, then you can learn some security skills through that. But I think what you're doing is perfect. So any advice on how to grow beyond your first pen test role? So yeah, as you're in that pen test role, start learning other areas of pen testing. So if you're doing network pen testing, start learning cloud or web app. Do things that take you up to the next level to be, an intermediate pen tester. And so that type of thing there, just constantly be learning, maybe even doing some bug bounties to get some experience on the web application pen test side of things. But one thing you always want to do is just continue to grow and learn. And as you get the experience, it's going to make it a lot easier. So your first pen test role is going to be difficult to land, but once you start getting some experience, it'll get easier. So what are some of the conferences that are free to attend? Your B-Sides conferences are typically free to low cost. And if a B-Sides conference is charging, it's because they didn't have enough sponsors to cover the complete conference. But yeah, the B-Sides are typically free. So those are good options there. And someone said, I had a security admin entry-level role interview and was told I'm too proactive, too ambitious, and too outgoing. Yeah, that is what you call not a culture fit. So if they can't see this as an advantage, because I don't know, they may be too worried that you're not going to stay there long because you're ambitious and you're wanting to do these things. So just ignore them. Most people are going to like that.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I really sympathize with Justin's question, because a lot of people trying to get into cyber are career changers who a little bit older. So they're being told by cybersecurity analysts, hiring managers, oh, you don't have experience as a cybersecurity analyst, so we're not going to hire you. But then when you try to apply for sysadmin or interns, it's like, oh, you can't apply for an internship because you've been out of college for too long, or too old, and you can't be a sysadmin because you're too ambitious. So I just sympathize that it's really hard for career changers to get a foot in the door. Maybe you have some tips.
Yeah, I think that's really where you just have to leverage your networking, because if you get somewhere, you got someone in this organization, maybe someone from cybersecurity nonprofit is a director somewhere, or they're in the security group, getting your resumes to people and stuff. I mean, it's yeah, it really annoys me because teaching for almost 4 years and seeing a lot of people I've mentored and former students go to get jobs, and they get in places. Another thing that I really hate to see is they land a role somewhere and the company only gives them 2 or 3% raises. And so they're never really getting to that next level like they should. And one of the things I tell people too is if you're in somewhere, you've been there over a year, and after you start being there like maybe 2 or 3 years, you're not getting promoted, and it's time to move on, because some companies take advantage of that. So once you've got that experience, you can move on somewhere else, and someone else will see you as a lot more valuable. I had a colleague at the college I taught at, and he was part owner of a consulting company. He's always complained to students, yeah, you don't need to job hop to make more money. But honestly, if you've got to do that to make more money, do it, because companies are not loyal to you. So you got to look out for yourself. But really, all you can do is leverage the networking. Not everyone's going to think that way, but be creative on documenting some of the ways you're getting experience, put that on your resume, some of the education, document the things that you're doing through that. You're doing hack the box. If you're doing some of these hack the box things, write up a pen test report, have these pen test reports kind of show them what you're doing, that you're going above and beyond. And that's it. Just really, and one of the things I told someone a while back too, that I shared recently, is just because someone has more experience doesn't mean that they're better than you, because someone can have 20 years, they're not ambitious, they're just not very good at it, don't care. You've only been doing this for a year and you're more advanced than them. So, but yeah, just leverage the networking opportunities, what you have to do. So Alan says, I've been unemployed for several years because I tried to go back to school and finish and obtain a CS degree, but I developed a disability that put me out even longer. I just finished a boot camp, obtained the Security Plus. I have over 20, close to 30 years IT support technician, and I've had some experience at tech, but none of the security. I'm having a hard time finding jobs, local entry-level jobs. I feel I'm not clueless in tech. I just need to find a break somewhere. Any suggestions? So yeah, it goes back to where you really have to do networking. If you can find some kind of startup, so sometimes security companies, startups may need someone with your skills. So getting into some of those organizations, supporting their applications or their different technologies, get in there, and once you're in there, you're working with these security products, and that's a way to get experience there. So a lot of people would love to have you to support their security products. So working for like a vendor or something like that. But yeah, you're not clueless. Is just trying to get some of these people to see. Some people, in my opinion, have no place in management if they can't see past that. Because honestly, if you've got all this IT background, some of the security stuff is just very minor on top of that, because that's all actually all encompassing, all kind of part of the same thing. And also, if you're looking for a job, send me a DM on LinkedIn. If you put a post up that you're looking for a job, I'll be happy to share it, because that can't guarantee I'll get you a job, but it will give you a lot more views to your job search. So when do you recommend doing the OSCE? So I'd say after you've have like the OSCP and you've worked in as a pen tester for at least a year, maybe to 3 years, but whenever you feel like you're ready to do that. But I would say you want to have gotten through the OSCP and then be working in pen testing. Because one of the things that was tough for me is that going through like the OSCP without actual pen testing experience can be kind of difficult. So when I started going through the OSCP, I just started working as a pen tester. So if I felt like, and I'm glad I didn't wait 2 or 3 years. If I'd waited 2 or 3 years, I may have not gotten the certification. But I feel like if I'd had the pen testing experience, it would have been easier. Tips for writing pen test reports for beginners. So one of the things I would do is you're really just trying to, one thing that's helpful is try to enjoy writing pen test reports, because if you dread it, it's no fun. So make sure when you're doing that, you're trying to demonstrate how thoroughly you test those systems and thoroughly documenting anything you've exploited, anything you've hacked into, showing all the steps there. And like if you get a certain level of access to a system, then I would go in there and make sure you're taking screenshots to show using like who am I or ID to show what level of access that you've gained in there. So thoroughly documenting that. And so look at and trying to think there's someone that's got a repository of example pen test reports. So see if you can get your hands on some example pen test reports and kind of see what they're doing. But great question. Any advice on how to grow your career skills apart from technical skills? Soft skills are huge. Speaking skills helped. I used to be scared to speak in public, but I went to Toastmasters. That helped me develop my speaking skills. I started speaking at conferences, doing podcasts, and all that stuff has helped a lot. Writing skills too. So when I was in high school, I didn't take high school seriously. So when I went back to school for my associate's degree, I took an English composition class, and that was the best class I took during that degree. Is I learned how to be a better writer. So writing and communication skills are very helpful. So Michael says professional IT certifications help beginners get into a new career. I was a network engineer and then learned cloud and network security to transition to cybersecurity. I found customer support lower level to earn the experience and beginner level role to get to senior. That's great advice. Thanks for sharing that comment. I think I'll put this in the window for people to see. Market is. So that's some good information. Thanks for throwing that, Michael.
Great questions and interaction.
What's that?
Lots of great questions and interaction tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's help everyone make some connections today. Feel free to drop your LinkedIn in the Q&A. So Ashley and I and Philip can't post ours in there, but ours are on, our LinkedIns are on the webinar chat, or just search our names. I think we're the only ones.
And I noticed we had David Meese, I mentioned earlier. David's on here. So connect with David on social media. David on Twitter and LinkedIn has helped people find other followers. So yeah, David's got like 90-something thousand followers, and he is really good at finding followers, and he can help you. He does these things periodically where he said, if you want to gain some followers, comment, introduce yourself, and connect with people, connect with people in there. So a lot of people are building a good following doing that. David really has figured that out, and David loves to help people too. So he's a good resource that is another good person to reach out and ask questions. So I think that's all the time I have questions for. I got a 3-hour drive ahead of me. So.
Right. Thank you so much, Philip, for giving this webinar and giving us 20 minutes extra. All of this was so amazing. Thank you so much for this, and have a safe drive.
Well, thank you. Thanks, everyone. This was a lot of fun, and feel free to reach out to me. If I didn't get around to your question, you can send me a DM on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to answer your question.
Great to see you, Philip.
Good to see you. look forward to next time I see you in person, and hope to meet you in person sometime soon, Ashley. I mean, Marta.
All right. Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.
Oh,
And I
thank you.
hope to meet David sometime too.
Yeah. Yeah, David. So I think David's going to be he's going to be at Hackspace Con as well as I am coming up in April. So that's an opportunity for anyone that's going to be there to get to meet us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day.
All right. Thank